You know what? If anyone at Jaguar Land Rover is watching and wants to lend me a more modern Range Rover, I'd like to kind of try this in something a bit newer. Well, folks, I'm Ed. This is the start of it. I have been waiting almost a year to do this video. The time was never right to do the single tank challenge. 837 miles on a single tank of fuel in a diesel 4.4 TDV8 Range Rover L322. This is what having fun in cars is all about. So apologies for taking so long. I didn't want to do it in the winter. The last time off I had, it was snowing up in Scotland. We're now into May. The temperature says 16 degrees. I don't need the air conditioning. And you know what? This is a wonderful place to be. I love it. I drive it day to day, go to work. It wafts me along in a nice armchair here. On air ride, effectively, soaking up all the bumps. It gives a commanding view of the road. It's quiet, it's comfortable. What more would you need? Anyway, this video is all about Land's End to John O'Groats. Some call it Le Jog. Land's End, John O'Groats, Le Jog. 837 miles by road. It is the most southerly point of the United Kingdom's mainland to the most northerly point. And generally speaking, as I say, the minimum distance is 837 miles. Typically it's a little bit more than that, so you might see it banding around about 850 as well. I won't know until I get to Land's End what it has on the whole the trip computer. Now I've got my little Apple CarPlay unit here. I've got my Waze navigation app set up. I've got the computer within the car. However, my experience tells me that it's wildly optimistic, should we say, as to what the car is capable of. So a pinch of salt. This is not the first video in the whole series. The first one was, there's the idea. The second one was, will I knacker the car when I run out of fuel? Because let's face it, I'm probably going to do that. There's a lot of naysayers out there saying, Ed, you're mad, it's a brick, it's a Range Rover. What are you playing at? Anyway, so thank you for all of that. That has spurred me on to go and prove you all wrong. Well, time will tell, won't it? Time will tell. And if you have said it's impossible, please write a comment down at the bottom here when we get to the end. It'll either be, Ed, I told you so, or it's got to be, you know what, good lad, you did it for charity, you had a bit of fun along the way, and thank you for making the video. So you know what, either way is good, comments are good. So anyhow, where did we get to? The second video, I went to my local specialist, Mark Smith Limited, or Mr. Land Rover, you'll find them there. Great guys, they look after this car. I've just had it serviced. Making sure the engine and the oil is as clean as possible for a challenge like this, reducing the friction. Talking about reducing friction, I've pumped up the tires to 40 psi to reduce the rolling resistance. I haven't taped up any of the gaps, the panel gaps or anything like that. I haven't lightened it. I've still got all the spare kit, the spare wheel, and everything that come with the car, so I haven't lightened it at all. But visiting Mark Smith, I wanted to see if I was going to knacker the car, knacker the engine by running out of fuel in reality. Now, it's a spun tank, saddle tank, sits over the middle, over the prop shaft, and it's got two areas where it can draw fuel from. Now, as soon as the first gauge notices a discrepancy in the gauges or one tank's getting low, it'll induce a little bit of hesitation. That's what Chris said from Mark Smith. And in order to prove that, I went out in the third video to find out what we can do about it. Now, if I ran out of fuel, all I've got to do is top it up and start, stop a few times just to purge the system and get it all going again, and then put the foot on the brake and start the car up in reality. Hopefully that's what's going to happen. So I've got 20 litres of spare diesel. One is to top up the tank when I actually get to Land's End to make sure that it's full to the brim. Then I'm going to seal the tank, I'm going to sign the tip and leave it there. What I've done to this car then, as I said, I've pumped up the tires to the maximum that the manufacturer recommends. I've got a spare fuel filter just in case we draw some clag into the engine at the very end of all of this. I mean, I do have RAC membership, but at the end of the day, I didn't want to be silly about this. I didn't want to ruin the car, and I wanted to be able to get it going again, fill it up again at a local station and drive down. It's going to take me 5 hours to get to the start point. It's going to take me probably another 8 hours to get back home again after the challenge. It's going to take me over 16 hours to drive as well. So I've got a little bed set up, bit of foam and stuff like that in the back. Well, it's a kind of a I don't want to deviate too far off the motorways, maybe into the services. Who knows what's going to happen here. I didn't want to do it in winter because this car's got a fuel burning heater as well. It uses actually fuel to heat the block when times are cold. I didn't want it too hot either because it's 16 degrees outside, it says. I didn't want to have to use the air conditioning. So that's the kind of the one luxury I'm doing without. I've still got all my infotainment and stuff like that, and I'm going to be easy in the right foot. Might even end up doing a little bit of drafting, should we say, with the HGVs. And I've been specific, and I'm going to head off at night. I'm going to head off at about 8 p.m. or thereabouts. I'd very much appreciate it if you watched all the adverts, watched it through to the end. If you don't know how YouTube works, you watch this for free, but it's the advertising that pays the revenue. And all the revenue for this is going to Cancer Research UK. I'm not going to make a penny from it. One watch all the way through generates about 1/3 of 1 pence, or about less than half a US cent. So plenty of views, please, plenty of views. Share it with your friends. It's all a bit of fun. I've never seen this done before in a Range Rover. I'm going to get to Land's End. I'll show you a quick run around the car, what I've done, and we'll get ourselves on the road. 16 hours of driving. Hey, I must be mad, but you know what? I love this sort of stuff. So thank you to everyone who's subscribed already for the silly stuff in the channel. There's a Racing the Sun in a Clarkson-like fashion in the XKR. I did that about a year ago. This is all, as I said, for charity. This is my father-in-law's car, was his car. The XKR was his car as well. And I wanted to do something fun, and I wanted to do something for charity. So that's how all of this came about. He passed away due to complications of cancer, hence the cancer research element of it. If by watching this you've aided towards that, thank you so much. If you watch to the end, even better. But there's a link in the description below if you actually want to put some of your cold hard cash towards it. £1, £2, £5, something like that. That would be very, very much appreciated. So to Land's End, I'll see you there. Well, here we are. All good challenges start at Land's End. 839 miles, the little sat-nav says, up to John O'Groats. I'm just going to top the car up with fuel. I'm going to set off about 8 p.m. and that's what I kind of intended. It's going to take me an absolute age to top the tank up. So we topped up on the way down 260 miles and just over 40 litres, which is just about 9 gallons. So doing the math, I reckoned it was probably about 29, 30 miles to the gallon. Now, I wasn't hanging around. I wanted to get down here. It'll be somewhat slower on the way northbound, so I'm going to try and cruise at about 53 or thereabouts. It's taking an absolute age here to get the fuel in, but I'm determined to get every last dribble. I think I've got this is 10 litres, so I think I managed to squeeze an extra 5 litres in here just by being patient. There it is. It doesn't come much fuller than that. There's no way I'm getting any more in there. Okay. Brilliant. Let's get this tank all sealed up now. This is what they call high-speed tape. It's aluminium tape. It's used in the airline industry for keeping airplanes together. or so you would believe. But it works really, really well. So I'm just going to put that across. I'll do my signature, bit of BRH, and the one tank challenge. Just to show you what I've got in my little pack. We got some water just in case, and we got a tire inflator in there. I've got a spare fuel filter, original Land Rover, and I got that extra when I got the car serviced. Some tape in case I want to go and swim. I've got a doggy toy anyway, and of course the obligatory jacket. I've got a tire repair kit in here. I've got a tow rope, no, hopefully not needing that. And that's the kind of the sort of stuff that lives in the back of this car on a permanent basis. But especially for this sort of challenge, I wanted to make sure that I had certainly the high-vis jacket for doing all of that. This is my home for the next 18 hours or so. I've got the little portable CarPlay unit in here. I've got all the rigging for the cameras. There's the 360. Got plenty of water. Got plenty of snacks back here, and I've got my little bed area there sorted out at the back. So I've got an overnight case. I haven't taken the seats out. I haven't lightened it at all. It's just as it. I haven't even had a chance to wash the damn thing. Tires are all pumped up nicely. I've checked the tire pressures. I have not done anything with the engine except for getting it serviced recently. That's kind of it. Pity it's not cleaner. I'm sorry about that. Wish me luck. That is Land's End behind us. 0.1 miles in here. I did the full reset. It estimates 14 hours and 4 minutes. 839 miles now. And 10:18 a.m. Well, that's not going to happen, is it? We'll get it underway, and it's. I shall enjoy the drive. It'll be dark in an hour, but hopefully the roads will be quiet, and I'm just going to take it nice and easy, riding on the wall of torque. Hopefully I haven't hung around. I've been maybe 45 minutes, so I'm starting with the engine. Yep, it looks like it's all up to temperature. Well, the gauge is certainly reading full. I was reading over full, maybe. Hopefully there's nothing dribbling out the back. As far as driving this thing is concerned, I've found if I stick it into sport and do the manual thing, it doesn't change gear. It doesn't rev out just as much as I would have expected. So I can keep it in 8th at 52 miles an hour or thereabouts. But this is all about thinking ahead. This is all about braking the least amount, all the hyper mile kind of techniques, as they say. Did a little bit of research on that, and that's where I got my kind of clue about inflating the tires to the max. The air conditioning is off, so it's going to take a little time for it all to settle down as far as estimates are concerned. But right now, the Range Rover in the actual trip computer here says 616 miles, and we've got 838 showing. So we're 200 miles shy, 200 miles. But for those of you that watched my kind of last video on this, we realized that there was a sneaky gallon. There was 1 gallon or thereabouts left. I got 35 miles beyond range equals 0, which could be significant. Let you know what it's going. This is exciting. You know what? This is what challenges are all about. You know what? Thanks everyone. I can't really state this enough. If it wasn't for all you guys out there, I wouldn't be doing silly stuff like this. So long may it continue. Watch this to the end. Hopefully we'll be pleasantly surprised. I'm just going to enjoy the sunset and enjoy the drive. So this is 2015 evening, 8:15 p.m. is when I set off. We're 3 minutes down the route. We've got 615 miles distance to empty. Yeah, CarPlay says we have got 13 hours left and 836 miles. So you know what? Well, if we freewheel down into John O'Groats, I'll be a happy man. I've never been there, so I don't really know the lay of the land, hence why the CarPlay is so important to me. So let's talk about some hypermiling techniques. Doing a bit of research, you've got to look ahead, think ahead, brake as little as you can, and prepare your car. Now, some people tape up the gaps and things like that, but I didn't do that. Some people lighten their cars. I didn't do that either. And some people use fancy petrol or diesel. I don't do that. I wrote to Shell and BP to see about the challenge and see whether they'd like to support that. And they didn't get back to me. My channel is just not big enough. So in protest, I'm using good old supermarket fuel. I filled up at Tesco at Bicester in Oxfordshire, and then I topped up at Sainsbury's here for about a quarter of a tank or thereabouts. I'm going to try a little bit of maybe drafting behind lorries, which isn't kind of hugely recommended on safety grounds. But I think if I'm going to make this challenge, I'm going to have to use every trick in the book. So, 2 reasons for going Land's End to John O'Groats as opposed to the other way round. The prevailing wind in the UK is from the southwest, and I think we've pretty much got that today. It's not very strong, the trees aren't blowing, but at least I don't want to be with a headwind situation, which would effectively make it a kind of a longer distance with wind resistance and things like that. The second reason for doing it this way round is because I know once you clear these twisty roads, you're pretty much onto dual carriageway and flowing roads. Now the car's at its heaviest now. We haven't burnt off all of the fuel. It's at its heaviest. So when I get to the Highlands and have to drag the car uphill, it'll be at its lightest at that end of the kind of the journey. So that's another reason for doing it this way round. Well, you join me on the M5. We are 200 miles into the journey. So far, so good. We have 202 miles on the clock, and we're still showing full. Still showing full on the fuel gauge. And I'm totally amazed that we're 200 miles in. Now that's a quarter, okay? Pretty much. And we're still showing full. I've been taking a little time lapse of the mileage and the needle, and it hasn't moved. But in the car, we're showing 204 miles have gone. We have averaged 49 miles per hour. The average fuel consumption, it says here, is 47.1 mpg, and the one in the car is a bit optimistic. Distance to empty, 583 miles in the car, and we have got 672 miles to go. Now, the difference between the two is narrowing. I never thought I would really see this. So we're still 90 miles shy at the moment here. You know what? This is the first time that I have thought that it was actually possible to do this. I've still got the Highlands, I've still got the hills in Scotland, but you know what? This might actually work. It might actually work. I'm gonna have to stop. It's well, it's 1:45 almost. We started out at 8:15. I really want to get to Tebay services, to be honest, right up on the borders before I stop and have a break. Things are going well so far, but I am starting to feel a little bit on the tired side. I'm going to find a quiet services, a corner, and I'm going to put my head down for 40 minutes before we go on. I think that's a sensible thing to do. Well then, here we are, M6 toll, 296 miles down the line. We've averaged 50 miles an hour, 48.5 miles per gallon according to this, but as we know, it's wildly optimistic. It reckons we've got 544 miles to empty, and the little needle is over the 3/4 mark. According to SatNav, we have got 561. Is that right? 561 miles still to go. and a distance to empty of 544. So everything's coming together. I have to say, I did draft behind a lorry at 55 miles an hour, and that really improved the fuel economy. But the concentration involved in doing that. Roads are quiet, it's dry, the temperature's 8 degrees, so I'm going to grab an hour's sleep. There's a maximum of 2 hours here before you get fined. So that's about it. I'm going to stretch my legs, go to the loo, and yeah, bed down for an hour. And then we'll move on. So here we are, north on the M6. We've got 7 miles until we hit the junction of the M62 to Leeds. We are 354 miles into the journey. It's showing just about 3/4 of a tank. But moreover, we have got 501 miles to go. The computer here says we've averaged 49 miles to the gallon. Now, I've been doing a fair bit of drafting with these HGVs moving on just at the perfect speed, 55, 56 miles an hour. And the distance to empty on this rather optimistic car, it says 504 miles to go. So the sat-nav's at 500. We're showing we've got an excess of 4 miles. However, I do know that it's going to be really difficult when we get up into Scotland. Hey, you see, cautiously optimistic. Is that a phrase? Yeah, cautiously optimistic on this one. But I do know that we got, what, over 200 miles before the gauge started dropping. That's probably what's going to make the difference in this challenge, was actually necking the tank and getting the little bit extra. Plus, we also know they've got the gallon below. Hopefully we'll not need that. But so far so good. I have to say I'm starting to feel the pace. We set off at 8:30 last night and it's now 5:15 in the morning. So yeah, do the math. It's a long old challenge, this one. The Racing the Sun, the last one, was kind of, well, it would have been all over by now because the sun is clearly about to rise. Right then, well, we'll check in maybe at the halfway point. Yeah, we'll see what happens. Hopefully the figures will continue, and well, there's a little time lapse maybe off the gauge so far. Well, here we are in the beautiful Borders region. Service is 9 miles, it says here, and that's Tebay. For those of you that haven't ever heard of Tebay services, it's one of those wonderful little jewels just on the motorway network on the way up to Scotland. I think it's featured a couple of times. I think Sam Finn, seen through glass, he stopped here on a recent trip up to the Highlands. And it's a farm shop stroke camping site stroke motorway services. But it's just the quality of the stuff. I'm really looking forward to the breakfast in this place. 6:45 a.m. That's the perfect sort of breakfast time. Then I'm going to try and grab about 3 hours sleep, I think, before we head on. We'll let the whole rush hour get, you know, been and gone, and then we'll enjoy the beautiful scenery throughout Scotland. I really like Scotland, you can probably tell, and that makes this kind of challenge all the more beautiful. I have done the NC 500, the North Coast 500, on a bike with a friend of mine, and we did kind of 1,000 miles crisscrossing Scotland on the bikes. It rained 6 out of the 7 days, but we'll not hold that against it. The scenery was still stunning, and it kept the midgets away. There's the small flies. But look at that, wow. The clouds, the hills just disappearing up into the clouds. So we're going to arrive at Tebay very shortly. I'll do a little piece to camera when we get up to Tebay, kind of the state of the nation or the state of the diesel. 440 miles done. The sat-nav says 412 to go. Will we make it? Will we not? Hey, time will tell.
A few moments later.
Well, here we go. I'm glad to see this place. Tebay. T-E-B-A-Y. Tebay Services. Got a hotel here as well. It says the Westmoreland behind the services. Farm shop, kitchen, hotel, caravan park. It's a cracking place. 3 hours free parking, charges apply thereafter. Well, here we are, Tebay Services, so let's get her parked up and let's look at it. We have done 445.6 miles. The average speed was 51 miles per hour. This optimistic one says we've done 49.5 miles to the gallon. I can't see that at all possible. And the distance to empty is 444 miles, with the sat-nav saying we have got 406 miles to go. So according to this, the happy camper here, we should have about 30 miles spare range. However, we've got the hills to contend with as well. So I'm not going to worry about that too much. Going to enjoy Tebay, a nice breakfast. It's a pity that there's only 3 hours parking here, so I'm going to have to find somewhere else possibly to have a few hours sleep. Let's go and get something to eat. Well, good morning, good afternoon. As you can see, I'm just at a truck stop just outside of Tebay, so south of Carlisle. I've just had about 4.5 hours sleep in the back of the car in the 1-bedroom apartment. I need some caffeine, so stopped at a little truck stop then. I had to stop, I really had to stop, because you know what, it was always going to involve a stop, and it may as well be now. It's now 1:30 in the afternoon. So we're over halfway. Hey, this is a long trek, I have to say. This is a long old trek. I'm just over halfway, and I haven't even got into Scotland yet. It just goes to show how long Scotland is as a country that I'm just a little over halfway there, and I haven't hit the borders yet. So there you go. We'll get some caffeine in, we'll get down the road, and well, we'll take it from there. Well then, we've reached another milestone. The needle on the fuel tank has just gone to half full, and the computer says on this trip we've done 531 miles. 531 miles on half a tank. But I am totally astounded. You can maybe hear the rain beating off the windscreen. It's all a bit nasty weather-wise here. I'm not really sure what it's going to affect the rain is going to have, and the wet. It can't be a positive one, I'm sure. We're going to lose a little bit of miles to the gallon because of the rain. However, still following a nice truck ahead. It is what it is, you know. My confidence in actually completing this has risen exponentially, certainly over the last sort of 100 miles or so. Average fuel consumption 48.7 mpg. It's basically saying that the distance to empty is 370 miles, and the ways up, the CarPlay unit here saying 317 miles to go to the car park at John O'Groats. So it looks like we might even have 50 miles to spare. This is a one-tank challenge after all. So the prospect has just jumped into my mind. What if we get there and we still got fuel left? I'm gonna have to turn around and drive home again. So I don't know whether the 850 miles on a single tank will turn out to be 1,000. Imagine that. Imagine doing 1,000 miles on one tank in a Range Rover. This is turning out to be a lot more fun than I was expecting. And the rain is stopping. It's only a shower. Well. I'd forgotten just how beautiful the countryside is here. Around about Perth, you start to get the undulations, and I'm on the A9 at the minute, and this is just beautiful country. Takes me back to 1992, where I spent a year here learning to fly at a company called Air Service Training up in Scone, just outside of Perth. Anyway, you're not here for the scenery. You are here to find out how we're getting on. 220 miles to go, still 4 hours according to this. However, we have done 625 miles. The needle is at the mark just below halfway. I can't believe this thing. It's sipping fuel. I'm at 53 miles an hour. The HGVs have kind of dried up a little bit, so I'm now facing all the winds myself. The computer says I've averaged 49 miles to the gallon. So it says 297 miles distance to empty. We've got 219 miles to go. However, we've got the toughest bit of the journey ahead of us here. We've got to get up through the Highlands, and then we've got to get by Inverness on the way up to John O'Groats. You know what? If anyone at Jaguar Land Rover is watching and wants to lend me a more modern Range Rover, I'd like to kind of try this in something a bit newer. Let's see how far we can get out of the more modern stuff, even a hybrid. That'd be an interesting challenge. So if you stumble upon this, any of the JLR people, yeah, I'm only an email away. So we've reached Inverness. This is the famous bridge. 724 miles into the journey. We're still showing a quarter of a tank left. A quarter of a tank, hey? And we've got 117 miles to go. We have got 200 miles left to empty. So this is suddenly becoming more of a 1,000-mile challenge than a mere 850. Well, we're going to go to John O'Groats. I'm going to do the old photograph and stuff like that and show you that the fact that the tank is still sealed. And boom, there you have it, 730 miles, still showing a quarter of a tank left. 194 miles distance to empty. That's significant because that's the mileage that Joel got out of his 3.6 TDV8. Now, I think at the end of his challenge, he had a little bit left as well. Why he didn't go on and do more, I don't know. The car, because it's getting lighter with less fuel, it's actually performing better, even with these hills. And the fact is, I caught a couple of HGVs as well. So 23 gallons, 105 litre tank is all you really need. A light right foot and somewhere to go. Just look at this scenery. We're coming down this windy stretch over the loch, I think at Invergordon. I was up in Inverness with work. Flew in there last week, believe it or not. Well, it was all going far, far too well. We are 74 miles away from John O'Groats here, and the road's closed from 8 p.m. Now, luckily, it's only 7:30. But how am I going to get back? They're going to escort vehicles through once every hour. It says here 9, 10, 11, 12, 2 and 4 a.m. So I need to pick my moment. Got to play it by ear. We're getting later and later, of course, towards John O'Groats. So they're obviously resurfacing the road here. There's a little escort vehicle taking us through. So that kind of all lends itself to me maybe overnighting up at John O'Groats. But you know what? It's probably enough driving by the time I get there. let's keep it sensible, and they'll be open again in the morning to come back. Last thing I need is a detour to run out of fuel, on the way back. But there you go. I'm not admitting defeat just yet. We are still an hour and 23 away, 64 miles it reckons. So it looks like the estimate now is 9:35 p.m. That's kind of sunset time. It's an hour and 20 away. I've just picked up a little Chinese, and I'm gonna get that down me. So we're gonna arrive in the dark. I have to say this, the kind of final 50 miles here in towards John O'Groats reminds me so much of home. The coast road up towards sort of Ballycastle direction on the east coast of Northern Ireland is very, very much like that. The sea's even on the right side, so I'm going to enjoy this final run in. So it's going to be dark by the time we arrive. I'm going to have a little celebratory drink. Robin liked Peroni, so I've got a tin of that, and we're going to bed down for the night. Because of the road closure on the way back, there's no point in doing anything, and most of the fuel stops, the fuel stations that I'm going to need, seem to be closed as well, so it's kind of a bit of a double whammy. Well, here we are, we've made it. There it is, still intact. We have reached John O'Groats. It's 10 to 10 at night. We're showing 82 miles range left. We did 837 miles. Took us 17 hours in the saddle, and overall it was just a little over 25 hours. So the car park behind me is absolutely empty, as it should be, and I'm really surprised how much residual light is around. This camera must be doing really, really well. So I'm not even sore. I've got out of it comfortable. As you know, this is all for charity. It's Robin's passing a year tomorrow, and all proceeds are going to cancer research. As I said, for everyone that watches this video from start to end, it's less than 1/3 of a penny, or less than half a cent. But please, please, please click on the link below, and just £1, £2, £5, whatever you can spare in the fight against cancer. So it's not over yet. There's still 82 miles range in there. Plus, we know there's a secret gallon. So I'm going to bed up for the night. I'm going to have a little Peroni, which was one of Robin's favourite beers. And let's head south in a sort of a Forrest Gump style fashion. Where he bounced from west to east coast and kept running. We're going to bounce, head south, and let's really run out of fuel and see what we've got. 837 miles so far, 80 miles range, and we know it's probably got about 35 beyond that. So there you go, another 100. Could we make the 1,000 miles in a diesel Range Rover? I'm willing to give it a go. If you've liked this so far, please do the old likey, subscribey. So I'll bed down for the night, get something to eat. I'll see you in the morning when we can continue the 1 tank challenge.
Next morning.
Well, next morning, I've just done my little thumbnail-y bit. No, the challenge is not over. As I said last night, we've still got 82 miles remaining. However, I've manoeuvred a little bit around here. There's a little bit less. And being a cold morning, the fuel burning heater has decided to go on. So rather than pull the fuse and dismantle that, I'm just going to get on the way. It is 10 to 6 in the morning, and it's beautifully quiet here. You know what, if you haven't seen these kind of touristy destinations, completely empty, it's wonderful as far as I'm concerned, because I don't have to film with people watching me. A YouTuber's nightmare. No need for the can, because we're still all sealed up. I've done a bit of manoeuvring last night with 82 miles remaining. Not sure what it says this morning. However, the fuel burning heater came on because it's so cold. It's only about 6 or 7 degrees here at the moment, but doesn't matter. The challenge is a success irrespective. This is the little bonus to see if we can get to 900, 950. Is 1,000 miles on a tank achievable? Who knows? Who knows? Anyway, I'm going to put that away now. And well, let's get down the road and see where we're at. I'm still hours and hours and hours away from home. A judicious amount of use on the right foot, and we'll see what we can extend out of this. Well, I've literally just gone out of John O'Groats here, and the fuel low level light has come on. We've got a distance empty now, 77 miles, even though I've driven about 2. The fuel burning heater is not really helping things at all. And we have got 839.5 miles on the clock. So that's the first sign that we're running a little bit low on fuel. Well, I have a little bit of a dilemma. I'm at a fuel station here. The distance to empty says 18 miles. We have done just shy of 900 miles, 898 miles. So we could push it to over the 900. We could head on down the road. Now I know I've got 3 gallons of fuel or thereabouts. I've got about 15 litres. When we did the testing on this car as well, we got to 35 miles beyond range equals 0. So that would mean there's another 50 miles potentially in this tank. That would take us to 950, and that would be absolutely a fantastic goal. Do I call it a day at 900, or do I push it on? Not knowing. I haven't got any more, I haven't got any data available to me. I don't know when the next available kind of fuel station, fuel stop is. Looking at it earlier on, it was another 100 odd miles down the road. So, well, my solution is I press on regardless. However, I'm going to keep an eye out for data. I'm going to see what's going on. Those 3 gallons are going to give me probably about 90 miles of range. But it's a one tank challenge, so there you go. You know what, there's the decision. We're going to see this one through to the end. I could potentially go another kind of 50 or 60 miles down the road to make sure. So that's what we'll do. We'll press on another 50 miles. We'll see what happens. We'll run the tank dry on the way home, and then we'll see where we go from there. Right then, we have a plan. So I've just seen a sign. Inverness is 54 miles away, and that's perfect. That gives me the confidence to press on. We've got 18 miles range in here. We know it's approximately 35 miles before we get into difficulty beyond that. And that kind of takes us exactly to 53 miles, which is Inverness. So I might not even need the reserve fuel in there, but I know I've got 3 gallons. I know I can do a further 90 miles on that, and there is bound to be plenty of petrol stations or diesel stations in Inverness. So imagine being able to drive from Land's End to John O'Groats and back to Inverness again. Fills me with hope, and I'm going to press on. There's 900 miles. We've just hit a fantastic achievement for the L322. We've averaged 46 miles to the gallon. Distance to empty is 15 on a car that's done 103,000 miles. What a machine, eh? What a machine. And there it is. Range is now officially 0. We don't appear to have any fuel left, but yet we're still going. 916.9 miles. And in previous testing, we know that it did another 35. So what's 35 on 917? 952. So the official goal now is 950 miles range. So at this point, I need to be really, really careful. There's a guy tailgating me. Yeah, I don't know when I'm going to run out of fuel. Could happen at any stage. And that goes to show the lack of, say, consideration that other people might have. No, I'm not. I'm driving at 55 miles an hour, but he's in for a shock if I suddenly run out of fuel. Are you still there? I did promise I'd show you the time lapse of the fuel gauge and the mileage. Well, here you go, just to prove that everything was kosher. Well, I saw how drafting would actually work. There's a lorry behind me, so I'm going to let him overtake, and then I'm going to tuck in behind and see if I can't extend the range just that little bit when it actually counts. So will Mr. Schmitz save the day? So I pulled into a little lay-by, let him past. And now the instant MPGs have gone to 40 miles to the gallon again. This technique worked really, really successfly on the way up to John O'Groats. And to be honest, it's the only reason why this machine has done over 900 miles. Is it cheating, technically? Or is it using every available resource at your disposal? Well, I'd side on the latter. If you think I cheated a little bit using drafting techniques with HGVs, then yeah, stick a comment in there. But at the end of the day, range is range, and that's what this is all about on the single tank challenge. So 928 miles on the odometer, on the trip counter. I reckon we've got another, well, if he's on his way to Inverness, we might have another 20 miles in it. I hope we do. And then I need to be careful about how I pull over. So if you watch the other video, running out of fuel on purpose, in preparations for this trip, you'll kind of know that the first instance that we had, the indications that we had, and fully expected, was a little bit of hesitation built into the ECU. Now, the saddle tank, and when one of the sensors, the level gauges, indicates kind of a low level situation, it feeds that information into the ECU to actually induce a hesitation, to alert you fairly vigorously into the fact that you are just about to run out of fuel. It also is backup so that the pumps don't effectively suck air and run dry. A lot of pumps are cooled by fuel, they're lubricated by fuel, and the last thing you want to do is burn a pump out. It could be dangerous, especially if it goes on fire. Ask my brother. My brother had a Range Rover Sport. It had a malfunctioning pump to such an extent that it actually overheated and went on fire, and he lost it. It was during lockdown, and he wasn't using the car, so he let the insurance lapse because we weren't going anywhere. It was one of those little quirks. Why renew your insurance when you knew that you wouldn't be using the car for several weeks? So if the car's parked up at home, just make sure you've got some sort of fire and theft, if it isn't fully comprehensive insurance. So what I can't quite believe is we left John O'Groats with the low fuel warning. I've done 120 miles on the low fuel light, and we're still going. 957 miles, we started there 8:37, so that puts it 120 miles on the low fuel light. That's just fantastic. And there she is, the first hesitation, 958 miles. So that's it. That is kind of the single tank challenge. It's going to be 960 by the time I get round to the fuel station. Hopefully we won't run out before then, but you can't really feel it, but it's given a little bit of hesitation back. So there's 959.2. I know exactly where the fuel stations are because I've just left them behind, but I'm still able to drive it, even though it's kind of hesitating a little bit, but that's kind of right in the region of where we'd thought it would be. This little car has exceeded my expectations continually. I'm not going to run it dry. I've proved the point already. 959.8, 959.9, and 960. I'm going to pull into one of the fuel stations here, and I'll choose the one with the coffee shop. And then we'll call it a day. I will do a run around. I'll do a final, let you see that the seal is not broken on the fuel tank. I'll do a single shot through to the trip counter here as well, just to prove that everything is as it should be. Because of course, being YouTube, there's always naysayers out there that it wasn't done. It was a trick of the camera. So I had to make sure that everything was kosher. So 960 miles, that is the official figure. It probably could go another couple of miles more, but I talk about the benefits and the risks. The benefits are we get an extra couple of miles range. The risks are that we do something with the fuel filter. So there we have it. There's the fuel station behind me. That is the single tank challenge officially over. 960 miles on a single tank of fuel. That's just absolutely fantastic. What I wanted to do was a single shot to show you that all of the original seal is still in place. It's untampered with, and I have still signed that. So we're going to need to get, God, we're going to need to get some fuel into it. But just to show you how the seal gets damaged when you actually remove it, there it is. There's no denying that has never been off. Oh dear, I'm going to have to take all the flipping glue off it now. There it is, unsealed. And finally, just to complete the shot, I want to show you what's on the trip counter. So here we go. That's the little thing that's been recording the mileage. If I put it on, we will see. If I close the door, cycle through, I need an extra pair of hands. There it is, the trip counter showing 960.6 miles on a single tank of fuel. Wow, wow, wow. There you go. It's it continually exceeds my expectations, this car, and I've always said that if I was to only keep one car out of them all, this would be it. And you know what? The more adventures we do in this, the more we actually love it. Yes, they can be expensive to maintain, but you know what? Just go to prove that a well-maintained car. Big shout out to Mark Smith Limited as well in Bicester or Bicester Land Rover. Thanks very much to Chris there for helping me along the way, understanding what actually happens when you get low level on the fuel. Everything happened exactly as he said it would. We had the confidence to press on 120 miles on the fuel low. I'm not saying your car is going to be the same as that, but this one certainly behaves in that fashion. So I'm going to grab a coffee, going to stick some fuel in the car, and it is it's 514 miles to home, 8 hours 22. Hey, I'm a glutton for punishment. So I have just filled it up again. Dearie me, a total of 172 pounds. But you'll be more interested to know, the first one shut off at 98.85 litres, and then I went back and had to top it up, and that was 6.92 litres. So if you think it's got 105 litre capacity, it does. 105.77 litres. The calculations are correct, 105 litres. Let's just work out the actual miles per gallon. Now, it wasn't quite up to the neck, but it was close enough. Into gallons, 105.77, divide that by, is 23.26 gallons. If I divide that by 960.7 and do 1 over, 41.29 miles to the gallon. That's what this car did. This is what it achieved on the run. The car thinks it did 45.6 mpgs, so it's out by about 10%. It's about 10% more optimistic than it actually did. So 41.29 is the official figure on this one. So if you've liked this, hit the old like. Gonna fire across to me back at John O'Groats, sat on a tailgate. I wanted this video to have a little bit more meaning than just a single tank challenge. I thought it up and I did a little piece to camera earlier on. So you know more than I did at that point, 960 miles. Well, cutting back to me, and that'll wrap it all up. Here I am, John O'Groats, the next morning, and I wanted to reflect on something. Everything has a meaning, and I wanted to get the best meaning for this particular challenge. Two things sprang to mind. All airline pilots, or all pilots, certainly Air Force pilots, will know the 6 Ps. Prior preparation prevents piss poor performance. And this was achievable because of prior preparation. I got some extra diesel cans in there. I knew that if things were going to get low, I didn't need a garage or roundabout. In fact, at that time of night that I came through last night, there were none open. The other thing was that I wanted to set a goal that was outside of the boundaries, but yet seemingly achievable if everything went to plan. And that takes me on to my second. It's a more personal note, I suppose. If you're a fan of the channel, you know I've been an airline pilot for 30 years, but when I've approached my careers teacher, everyone had a careers teacher in school, back in the 80s, certainly when I went to school. And I said to him I wanted to be an airline pilot. And he turned around to me and said, Ed, do you not think you should choose a career that's a bit more achievable? And that shocked me, that made me angry, and that spurred me on. So I don't know whether it was a bit of reverse psychology or not, I don't know. Or whether it was just his genuine impression that no one gets to be an airline pilot. What really started things on was that I applied for an RAF flying scholarship. That was 30 hours for the Air Force. I really wanted to go into the Air Force, primarily. After the first Gulf War, all the jobs were taken, and that was kind of it. I got that scholarship. I applied to the airlines. I was one of 20 successful candidates out of 20,000 applications in the year that I joined Aer Lingus. So set goals, reach for the stars and achieve the moon. But you've got to set goals in life that are a little bit further than the expected boundaries. That's why I said challenges are supposed to be difficult, not easy. Had I listened to a lot of the naysayers on this, I wouldn't be here. They said they weren't interested in watching a video that was clearly not going to be achievable. Give us some sort of suspense. There you go. I've done it. And I've proved all the naysayers wrong. So don't believe anything that someone tells you in a negative fashion. Go and achieve it. Put your resources together. Use the 6 Ps. And actually, whether you achieve that goal or not, you've actually gone out trying. And that's a great lesson for life. So on that note, don't forget there's a link in the description. All proceeds for this, if you've got this far, you have already donated a third of a penny towards cancer research. But if you can stretch to the odd pound or two, then there's a link in the description below. I hope you've enjoyed this. Leave a line in the comments. What else can I try? I've no idea. Give me some ideas, and thanks very much indeed for watching. All the best now. Bye bye.